our book, number 4, it reads, write a proportion to find how many points a student needs to score on the test to get the given score. Okay? Now, the test here is worth 50 points, and the test score needs to be 40%. Now, as a refresher, when we're referring to 40%, this is a ratio, okay, that we can create using when we convert this 40% into a fraction. We actually have 40 over 100. Okay, that's our first ratio. Okay, our next ratio we're looking at is the 50 points. We need to know exactly how many points we need. Now we know that the maximum amount in this case is 50. That's what the total test is worth. But we need to know how many of the 50 do we need to earn. So therefore, if the maximum amount is 50, then how much of the 50 do we need? And that's what we need to put here. And therefore, we do a comparison of the two ratios to make a determination as to what would make it proportioned. Okay? Now, we can look at this two ways. We can make it proportioned by seeing here that to convert from 50 to 100, okay, we multiply this. Okay, we can multiply this by 2, or we can go vice versa, that 100 divided by 2 will give us 50, okay? And so therefore, we can go and reverse that. 40 divided by 2 can give us 50, okay? That is one way of establishing it. The other way we could establish it is to cross multiply and isolate t to determine what the value would be for t. Okay, since we are accustomed to isolating t and we are accustomed to cross multiplying, we can use that procedure to isolate and to make the determination. Okay, so let's take a look. If we cross multiply, okay, we would discover that 40 times 50 here, okay, all right, and then we have t, okay, 100, and then we would divide both sides by 100 to isolate t, and we would discover that it is 20, okay. The other way we can do this, like I said before, we can divide this by 2. That gives us 50. We divide the 40 by 2, and that would give us 20. And that's the other way we can make the determination of the value of t. Okay? But otherwise, our ratio proportion has been established to make that determination. Now let's look at number 6. Number 6 says the test is worth 80 points and the test score of 80%. Here again, we set it up just as we did the other. Okay, so here we have x over, in this case, 80 possible points equal to 80 over 100. In this case, we would cross multiply so that we have 100x here, and then we would cross multiply here, okay, and then therefore we would isolate x by dividing by 100, and so that x will be equal to 64 in this case. Okay? Now, moving on to number 8. Number 8, we have a game, points, and shots for game 1. That's a ratio. Comparison. The points to the shots. Game 2, 18 points and the number of shots unknown. Okay? And so we are asked to use the table to write a proportion. So here we have a proportion here, a ratio here, which is 12 to 14, and then we have here 18 to W. Okay, and therefore there we have our proportion establish our ratio setup. And so we would use our calculator, and we can cross multiply here. And we have 14 times 18. And we have 252. And cross multiply 12W. And now we need to isolate isolate W by dividing both sides by 12. And W, we can get a value for W. And that value for W is 21. Okay, so that would be, that will create a proportion. Okay, and to double check that, what we can do is take our, you would plug it in, and then you would simplify to see what proportion you would come up with. So for example, 12 over 14, if you divided both by 2, we have a reduced ratio of 6 over 7. If you take 18 over 21 and reduce it by 3, you will have 6 over 7. Therefore, we've checked and verified that this creates a proportion. Okay? Now, let's look at the next one. Here we have 15 over 2.5 hours. And then we have M over 4. Okay? We would need to cross multiply. Okay? 4 times 15 is going to give us a 60. And then 2.5 times M is going to give us 2.5 M. Now we need to isolate M by dividing both sides by 2.5. And M is equal to, take our calculator, and we take 60 and divide it by 2.5, and we have 24. Okay? All right, let's take a look here. The question is asked, what is the error? Okay, here we have $2.08 to 8 ounces, and here we have the unknown dollar amount to 16 ounces. When we look at the setup, Monday, we have part of Monday, part of Tuesday. Okay, part of Tuesday, part of Monday. So it's not set up correctly, all right? What you would want is the dollar over the ounce for the Monday compared to the dollar over the ounce for Tuesday, okay? So this would be Mondays, this would be Tuesday, and if that would be the case, then it should look like this: $2.08 over 8 compared to D over 16. And so that's the error. The error is the setup, and that is what creates the problem for this particular problem. It's not set up correctly, so therefore you will not get an accurate answer in reference to the proportion. Now let's take a look at the school here. The school has, as it reads, a school requires 2 computers for every 5 students. Write a proportion that gives a number of C computers needed for 145 students. Okay, so now let's take a look. The first ratio is here. The first ratio is here. It says the school requires 2 computers for 5 students. So it's computer, student. Okay? So therefore, in the first ratio, we have 2 computers, 5 students. Okay? That is our first statement. All right? Then our next statement reads, write a proportion that gives the correct number, so there are here C, all right, of computers needed for 145 students. Once again, we have C to students. So now this C we don't know, but these students we do know, 145. And therefore, there is our comparison. There is our proportion. All right? Computer to student, computer to student. Therefore, when we cross multiply, we have 5C is equal to, okay, 290 in this case. All right, and then we want to isolate. All right. Isolate the C. And therefore, we know that the number of students is 58. Okay? All right, let's take a look over here on the other side. It's 16. On 16, they have established a proportion. And so the instructions read, solve the proportion. Okay? So if we solve the proportion, we can look and see from 4 to 20, okay, that we multiply by 5, okay, or we can cross product. The 20 times 1 gives us 20 is equal to 4Z. Isolate Z, and therefore Z is equal to 5. Okay, and that's how that is done. Okay, here, same concept. We can cross product here, and we have K times 7. Okay. All right, 3 times 35 is 105 is equal to 7K. All right. Isolate K by dividing both sides by 7. And therefore, 15 is equal to K. Same concept here. We can cross. All right. And therefore, we have 180 is equal to 9 times B, which is 9B. Isolate. And therefore, 20 is equal to B. Last one. In the orchestra, the ratio of trombones to violas, is 1 to 3. There are 9 violas. Write a proportion that gives the number of T trombones in the orchestra. So if the ratio is 1 to 3, and we know we have 9 violas, we don't know how many trombones we have. That would be our proportion. Now we would need to solve for T. We would cross multiply, and therefore, for answer B, how many trombones are in the orchestra? Can you see this? Sorry about that. Okay, let's try it again. We have T trombones to violas. The ratio is 1 to 3. Okay, they tell you that you have 9 violas. If you have 9 violas, then your violas is in your denominator. T trombones you do not know, so you're writing a proportion for T trombones. So it's 1 to 3, T to 9. Okay. Then question B, so this is our proportion, 1 to 3, T to 9. Then in B here, it asks how many trombones are in the orchestra. You would need to solve this proportion, cross product here, so that 9 times 1 is 9, 3 times T is 3T, isolate T, and so T is equal to 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay? All right. That is the lesson. See you on Monday. Have a good weekend.